Hey, it's a little bit awkward. I'm not quite. Anyway, whatever. It, I'm. I know that there are better ways of doing this, but there's not one available for me at the moment. I've got the usual RAM problems and all kinds of bloody stuff going on that pops up every time I need to do a lot of work, which is always when it's very important legal work. And it's just a nightmare. It's like my computer and my phones work fine but they just get overloaded. So anyway, this is how I'm doing it. Now, I just want to show the extent of the severe criminal abuse under multiple sections of the Crimes Act. And I haven't even bothered mentioning the Harassment Act. I think criminal harassment goes without saying. But I made a police report yesterday and I put a lot of effort into it, and I went to the police station and just it's hard. I'm not going to try and give a potted history at the moment, but I'm just gonna show a little bit about what's happening. So I've experienced this a million times. To me, these people are all the same. They are just I don't know if you've seen. I think it's Mother, but it's Mother without the exclamation mark. It's about the girl who's raised by a robot in space, and turns out Mother has as many bodies as she wants, and they're all robots. And that's what it's like. Like, I've been through this manipulation, bullying tactic. Anyway, I'm in emergency housing, as people know, and emergency housing is administered by MSD. I don't know if it's WINS specifically, but it's under integrated services. And so when you have a case manager, the case manager is not an emergency housing case manager, they're an integrated services manager. And I probably should have started this by showing the job description and the mandate of integrated services. And it's really, it's the name of the position and the role and the operational department is not entirely self-explanatory, but it does give you an indication of what it means. It's integration of services, and those services are, which are not stated in the name, but those services are social services to help people get back on their feet. And it's not just about referring people to other agencies, and I've been absolutely bullshitted by my case manager about that they do cold referrals, and that's just how they do them, because the job description and the policy documents completely contradict that, because that it defeats the entire purpose of integrated services, which is to work with the needs of the individual, who often have very specific needs, as I do. And they're not just whims and fancies, and their actual needs and their communication needs and all sorts of things, because I do have cognitive damage and injuries, and my parts of my brain have not even developed properly, and that's why I have ADHD and autism. That's a disability, and one of their jobs is to work with people with their disabilities and to find a personalised plan, not a one-size-fits-all plan, because one size does not fit all. Cold referrals, as I told my case manager, do not work for me. Lo and behold, the cold referral to this agency that she made, the agency disappeared into fucking thin air, and I still haven't received a response about what happened. but I was told subsequently that I was not meeting my obligations when WINS has completely, or MSD, Integrated Services, has failed my obligations for me by removing a service that, without even telling me that I was trying to work with, you see. I do not have any obligations, and that is written, and that is a contract. They are making claims that is not true, even though I have it in writing from my case manager. So they're just going with the, I don't even think they're bothering with gaslighting. I think they're just going with the, we're just going to fucking lie to you, to your face, and nothing is going to happen to us. And that's what I fear is going to happen, and that was what drove my latest suicide attempt. But what's happened yesterday that made me finally make good on my intention to raise a police complaint, because I realised that trying to get answers out of them in person, which I have to say a minor support person. I'm not minimising her as a person, but I can't put my weight on someone who's not in a close relationship with me, or has the ability to do so when she's supporting other people, including in her family. But she recommended that we just go in person, and that was going to be yesterday on Friday, and just go and demand what the fuck is going on, because I'm not getting any responses, you see. And I've given very helpful nudges with examples of what they might expect of me. I've kind of really, I've described what I want from them to explain what obligations they think I have. And I've already gone above and beyond the obligations that I don't have at all, and they haven't acknowledged that. But I want to know what obligations they want me to meet, and which ones that they think that I haven't, and I haven't had any response at all, and they just won't, they just stonewall. And when I express my communication needs, which are to have things in writing, or if it's going to be a phone call, to have a heads up about what the phone call is going to be about and when it's going to be, which they refuse to comply with. And at the moment, my case manager, she's just been stonewalling me for the majority of our relationship. And so instead of her, I've been, she's obviously, and I've been through this situation a million times. Like, this stuff is really old hat. I know these tactics like the back of my hand. I really do. That's why I say they're all just the same person. And it's happened to me at the Tenancy Tribunal, where people keep dropping like flies, like adjudicators keep dropping like flies by self-recusing. But rather than have someone then put in the place that's going to behave themselves in a way where they don't have to recuse themselves, then they just find someone more powerful and whose role it is not at all to contact me, but who contacts me and then just stonewalls me and just creates a bouncer situation. And this is a very much a big part of a life as a targeted person. And a targeted person may sound like paranoia, but I don't. Look, I just don't deal with people who won't acknowledge reality or anything that isn't in front of their own eyes. Human group aggression is a special kind of phenomenon. It is found in nature, but for nature it's for, like animals. There's certain animals that will ostracize or attack an individual but the reasons aren't to, fuck with the person till they lose their mind, the animal till they lose their mind. It's for survival reasons, because nature's red in tooth and claw, and they don't have welfare systems, and it's a little bit like what happens in, you can't call them Inuit anymore. I think Eskimo actually is the more politically correct term if you want to, but they're First Nations. It's just that they've got different kinds of, there are First Nations all over the show in North and South, the Americas. But, there is that thing where if you're not pulling your weight in an incredibly inhospitable environment, you've got to go. And that can be infanticide. And then if you're too elderly to pull your weight anymore and all you're doing is taking without contributing, it's just a cultural norm to walk off into the snow and die. It seems horrible to us, and yet what we do to each other is so much worse, So this human group aggression, which is what I'm suffering yet again, is from MSD. And this time I got a email from Sheldon Geary, who's the Executive Assistant to Regional Director Canterbury. Now, it doesn't say Regional Director of what, but I expect it's Ministry of Social Development, rather than WINS or Integrated Services or anything like that. Attached to this is a letter, and look, I can't do the whole potted history because I just have to do this in bits and pieces, but the thing is that the same thing is happening, that instead of people doing the right thing, or when I show them the law or prove them wrong or expose their lies, because I do make sure to keep things on the record, and that's partly because of my memory, because I am cognitively injured, and they are legally, statutorily bound to, that's the job description, to work with people who have those weaknesses. It's not slacking off, it's a fucking disability. And I'll show that job description. What was I saying? I totally forgot what I was saying. Oh, yes, that's right. And the other reason that I keep records is exactly for this kind of reason. Now, you'll see why in this letter. And I was going to use my computer to sort of either annotate it or add maybe revert it to a Word doc or something and add comments or something, or track changes or something like that. I'm just going to have to move it this way. So this is a real piece of work. And it starts off like a nice letter. We are changing the way we work with you. So they've taken a template that is, and they've used it for evil. So instead of changing the way they work with me, all they're doing, that's the lie, they are just telling me with their boot on my neck now that instead of working with me like I am asking them to, because of that's what we, not only what we agreed, but that's in their mandate, so it's a personal contract that we've made, and it's also their legal mandate and their fucking job description and the reason that the department was set up. They're not changing the way they work with me. They are just telling me that they are going to continue to flout the law, and now they've got the big guns and they are just going to neglect my rights. I'm finding it a bit difficult to get a good way to, having done some graphic design, I can't close up on that. You're not supposed to have that many words per line because they're really hard to read. You're supposed to have about 7 words per line, maximum 10. And of course, words have different lengths, but 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Like it's too much. But I do want to show what, like I want to show that this is, here we go, no, it's not. Okay, well look, I'm just going to read it, and if I need to zoom in then I will, but I'm just going to read it and you can see. So, I'm not hiding anything, I'm not falsifying anything. This is a document signed by this person, and that came from an official MSD email. So I'm just going to read it rather than try and show it. I'm going to read it, and then I think I'm just going to go through and comment on it. Because it's not a long letter, and I just think it should be taken as a cohesive whole before I start picking it apart and showing the absolutely gobsmacking, bold as brass, daylight criminality of these absolute psychopaths. So these are crimes. This is a crime. This is a crime in itself, and it's called contravening a statute, and it's a very all-encompassing crime, which basically means that you are not acting in the capacity that you are assigned to act in, and I expect that extends to the private sector as well, but it's certainly government, and especially for an operation that is there to look after vulnerable people, and I'm one of the more vulnerable ones. So she says, I'm going to resist commenting. She says, we are changing the way we work with you. Oh, how lovely. And I'm not going to comment, sorry. We are changing the way we work with you so that we can provide you with a more effective service. We acknowledge that you are not happy with previous decisions that have been made. Applications you make for assistance are assessed against policy and legislation and are approved where you meet these criteria. If you are not happy with a decision, you have the option of lodging a review of decision. Other staff members will not overturn decisions outside of this process and will not discuss your application further. You also continue to send a high volume of emails to a variety of staff throughout the ministry requesting information that has already been provided to you, and the level and nature of your correspondence has become untenable. I am just going to comment here and say that anyone who's ever been abused by bureaucracy, and I mean abused, criminally abused, a lot of people don't know that these things are crimes, but they are, will recognise this language, and they'll just go, yeah, I know, I know all about it. Okay, so a high volume. Okay, so I'm at fault here for sending a high volume of emails, requesting information that has already been provided to you. At least in this case, she has said why that is wrong. Even though she's lying, she's provided a reason for the lie, which is slightly more sophisticated than most psychopaths. And the level and nature of your correspondence has become untenable. You repeatedly describe psychosocial harm and threaten self-harm, which is distressing for our staff. We now need to tell you that we have reached the end of being able to help you with your repeated complaints and requests. All correspondence between yourself and the ministry will be in person or by phone through a dedicated case manager, and email correspondence will cease. With that in mind, if you continue to email us, we will read your correspondence, but if you do not raise anything new, we will not respond. Any communication we have with you that contains intimidating or threatening language or behaviour or is of an excessive nature will not be tolerated or responded to. To help us provide a better service, we are taking the following steps. A case manager has been assigned to assist you. Any requests you make to MSD will be managed by Robin Sadgrove at Linwood Service Centre to ensure a consistent approach. All communication with the ministry will be with your case manager. If you contact other MSD staff or managers, they will not respond. Requests for assistance can be made by phone. Robin will engage with you through phone and in-person appointments and can be contacted on the number I've already got for her. Any emails you send to MSD will not be responded to. And the last point is we will only address information requests, reviews of decisions or complaints if the request has not been previously responded to. In the instance we receive a repeat request, you will be advised that this has been addressed and referred to the original decision. Yours sincerely, Angela Talbot, Regional Director. So now I'll go through and I'll comment. So we are changing the way we work with you. So I've already said, no, you're not. You're just reasserting your power over me. And that power is to cut me off from my legislated rights and your legislated responsibilities to me. We are changing the way we work with you so that we can provide you with a more effective service. Well, everything she said after that has belied that statement, especially when you take it in context of the mandate of integrated services and each individual case manager. We acknowledge that you are not happy with previous decisions that have been made. Now, I don't know what she's talking about. I'm not aware of a decision that's been made at all. I am aware only of stonewalling and lying to me about decisions that have been made. The decisions that have been made have been that I don't have to have any obligations to look for a home because my health is too poor. I'm on supported living payments, and that's what used to be called the invalid's benefit. Now, for some very strange reason, and I haven't checked the legislation because I'm not exactly sure what this falls under, if it's the Social Securities Act or one of the other acts that MSD administers. I haven't had... seriously, I just... people give me advice and it's like, just stop giving me advice. Like, I know what to do about this particular situation, but I have... It's like, oh, how to deal with your crying baby. It's like, thank you, but I have 8 other crying babies. So, no, I'm not going to take them out for a drive and have a little bit of alone time. Like, just shut up because you don't know what the fuck I'm going through. So I don't know what previous decisions she's talking about that have been made. The only previous decision that has been made is that... Well, there were 2 previous decisions that were made. One, that I don't have any obligations, and this is the entire basis of my accepting the offer to come back into emergency housing, because emergency housing is great in the sense that you've got somewhere to live, but the downside is that you have obligations that if you're incapable of meeting those obligations, which should not be out of my reach at all because that's not the mandate. Though that's the previous decision. I'm not asking for a review of that decision. I'm asking them to stick to that decision and not lie to me and try to gaslight me that decision wasn't made when it's in writing from one of them and I've shown it to fucking all of them. The other decision that was made was that I was going to be appointed a navigation service, and for reasons that I have not found out yet, I don't know if it was the navigation agency or MSD, but that navigation agency was ripped away from me and nobody told me. All they did was ring me and tell me that I hadn't met my obligations, but by working with the navigation agency, that was meeting my obligations. So I'm not unhappy with previous decisions that have been made. I'm happy with them. I'm not happy with them being revoked without notice or explanation or any acknowledgement that anything's changed. Applications you make for assistance. What applications? I haven't made any applications for assistance. I don't know what she's talking about. Are assessed against policy and legislation and are approved where you meet these criteria. Well, that's what's supposed to happen, but that's what they're not doing. They are breaking the law and making their own decisions. They are breaking the law. If you are not happy with a decision, you have the option of lodging a review of decision. A review of decision, I think anyone who's ever been through this kind of process with any government agency, whether or not you've been very badly criminally abused by them or not, knows that a review of a decision just finds themselves to be beyond reproach and that there's no need for them to change their decision. So fuck off with that. And I made a complaint to the complaints avenue, which is through info at MSD, and they are legally obliged to respond to a complaint. So yes, I am allowed to lodge a review of decision, but I don't have to do that. I can go straight to MSD and make a complaint, because the review of decision, whatever the fuck decision they think they've made, or they're trying to fool me into thinking that they've made, is on the kind of the object level, even if even that, at least in principle, at least in the argument being made. But what I'm complaining about goes way above an individual decision and about the absolute appalling treatment that I'm receiving as a whole. I don't know what fucking decision she's talking about. I'm talking about the decision that was the reason that I came back to emergency housing instead of trying to make it out in the world where it was a massive fucking struggle. And I did decide to kill myself, but they brought me back in here, a different emergency housing, and I'm sorry, but they have not improved my life. I would rather be dead, and I have made it's really, really snaky that they've sent me this letter the day I arrived back from hospital after a 2-night stay after a suicide attempt, and I'm still really unwell from that. And Shamila Grant, the regional manager of integrated services, not to be confused with Angela Talbot, who's the regional director of MSD, and that's for Canterbury, I believe, rang me while I was at hospital. And I'll go into that later because I don't want to go into too many side effects, but oh, so sorry, hope you, not sorry, apologising, but so sorry to hear that, hope you're okay, we're extending your accommodation, which you're not supposed to get basically 15 hours notice that you're going to have a home the next day, which was what she was giving me. I understood that a week was standard, even though a week is not enough to leave. If you're in emergency housing, that's a really good indication that you don't have anywhere else to fucking go. And even if you had somewhere else to go, moving in a week is not, especially finding a place, it's just ridiculous. And now they're telling me that a day is standard. And now they're giving me, less than half a day, and a lot of that is spent overnight after office hours. And then in the morning, I'm supposed to hope to find out if I have to move out at 10 a.m. What what on earth? How is that trying to uplift vulnerable New Zealanders? Then they're just not doing their job, to say the fucking least. So yes, she says, if you're not happy with the decision, you have an option of lodging a review of decision. I'm aware of that, and that option I have declined. I have already made a complaint, and nobody has replied to me, which is illegal. Other staff members will not overturn decisions outside of this process. Oh, yes, they have. All of you have made decisions outside of this process, have overturned them against the law. You are all breaking the fucking law. And that is and the overarching law of that is called the Contravention of a Statute. It's section 70-something of the Crimes Act. Other staff members will not overturn decisions outside of this process and will not discuss your application further. I don't know what fucking application she's talking about, and no one replies to me anyway. So further is a lie. Further indicates that it's been discussed already, so she's lying. She's saying that is a claim that it has been discussed with me already, and that is a lie. You also, and this is paragraph 3, you also continue to send a high volume of emails to a variety of staff throughout the ministry requesting information that has already been provided to you. I just stopped at a comma there because there's quite a lot of content in that phrase. You also continue to send a high volume of emails. I certainly fucking do, because I'm trying to get a fucking information that no one will give me, to a variety of staff throughout the ministry. Yeah, exactly. And do you know how I got those email addresses? Because they've contacted me. Right? So all of these, I don't have a directory of MSD management or other people's contact addresses. I don't think that one exists. I can't imagine that MSD would publish a directory of staff email addresses. The only email addresses that I've found online that do not belong to individual staff members are the info at MSD, which is the channel you use for a complaint, and that gets passed on. But it has to be responded to, and it has to be responded to in a way that's, they have to reply and say, thank you for your complaint, and they'll assign a reference number, and they'll say, we'll pass this on to the relevant department or whatever it is. I mean, the response may be completely inadequate, but I haven't had a response. So if anyone wants to claim that they've responded to my complaint, which they haven't, then they're going to be pretty hard-pressed to show this in court. And then the other one is the privacy team, and you have to list the contact information for the privacy officer. So I've been emailing with the privacy officers, and I've been teaching them how to fucking do their jobs, because they think that their job is simply just passing on my request to the people who won't give me the information I'm asking for. And one of them whined, we don't hold your personal information. And I'm like, I know you don't hold my personal information. Your job is to go and gather it and make sure it's all there. And if it's not all there, go back and ensure that the request is complied with. That is the job of a fucking privacy officer. You don't just pass it on, flick it on to... I can email these fucking recalcitrant, sulky bitches myself. I don't need you to do it for me. I'm asking you as a privacy officer because they're not compliant. So yes, I do continue to send a high number of emails, and I send them frequently to the privacy officer, and then when a manager replies and gives me incomplete information that she then invites me to complain to the Office of the Privacy Commissioner to, How original, how original. What a staggering right she's honoured. I get to do more homework while she doesn't fucking do anything. Not, she knows full well that the Privacy Commission responds to virtually no complaints made. So it's just a cop-out where they don't even attempt to do their job. They just go, well, if you don't like it, go suck it. And instead of literally saying suck it, they just say complain to the OPC. It's the same thing. So yeah, that comma. So after that comma, information that's already provided to you, it hasn't. It's been partially provided to me, but also I didn't just ask for information under Policy Act. I asked for information correction because fucking lies were put on my record. And the level and nature of your correspondence has become untenable. What nature? You repeatedly describe psychosocial harm. Yes, because these are the kinds of people you deal with, people who have a lot of psychosocial harm. That's what integrated services is for, to deal with people with psychosocial harm. And threaten self-harm. Yes. Yes, thank you, madam, who sent me this 2 days after I tried to kill myself. And I've said to them that you, by holding out on the information that's required to make me feel safe and secure here, so everything's above board and I know what's expected of me, and people actually reply to me rather than stonewalling me, and that includes my case manager. It centres on my case manager. And they know that they know the circumstances of my return to emergency housing is because I'd moved 14 times in 19 weeks, or actually, 13 times. This is my 14th move in 19 weeks, and I have been here since the 6th of December, so that's quite a long term. But again, it's just going through the same bullying that I received from 2 landlords in a row, okay? And people who have insecure housing or become homeless, a great number of those who commit suicide, and nasty people like to say, well, she had mental health problems. No, it's not a mental health problem. New Zealand has it all wrong. But as I've said before, the archaic Mental Health Act, which many academics are calling, and they've done a big project to sort of get this started. They basically want to, I think, repeal the whole act. Even the Mental Health Act, as archaic as it is, differentiates between self-harm and mental illness. You need to have both in order to be held under the Mental Health Act. Now, we're not talking about the Mental Health Act, but we are using that as a model to show that suicidality and mental disorders are not intrinsically connected. That a person can be suicidal because of a mental disorder, but that's not always the case. And so, as they have on file, I was released from the Mental Health Act. God, I've said this so many times in recent days. Because fucking annoying people get interviewing me and giving me stupid fucking advice. I was released from the Mental Health Act because I failed one of the criteria that was legally required for them to hold me. And that was not that I stopped becoming suicidal, it was because no mental disorder was found. So it's not a mental health problem. And not only could they not find a mental disorder, sorry, my mental health is suffering, but that's not the same thing as a mental disorder. And we can I'm not playing semantics games. There's specific terminology used in Acts of Parliament and in medical and mental health fields. So mental disorder is defined in a particular way. So a lot of the terminology is not self-explanatory, but I do not have a mental disorder. I have mental health impacts, but they're secondary to what was discovered to be genuinely just harassment in the community. And this is a fucking prime example of the kind of harassment that I'm getting. So when I was threatening self-harm, I was saying, you know that my trauma and my stress and my, my anguish and my suicidality, you know that that's because I've had insecure housing and I've got one of my sources of PTSD is losing multiple homes. So they know that. And so when I said, if you guys keep bullying me like this and threatening my home and dangling it over my head like the sword of Damocles, I am going to take my life. Now that is not, as the mental health nurse who visited me in hospital said, was blackmail. That is not blackmail. Blackmail would have to be trying to coerce someone into doing something that they ought not have to do, except that you are threatening some horrible thing happen to them that they don't deserve, but they have to comply with if they don't want this horrible thing to happen with. Telling an agency responsible for my care that if they don't stop abusing me, I am going to kill myself. I'm sorry, but to say that that's distressing for your staff, I've heard this shit before. This is a fucking snake. Even if she is misinformed by her lower downs, this is a fucking snake who, if she doesn't know what integrated services is for, she fucking ought to. And if she doesn't, she needs to be fired before she kills more people. She goes on, we now need to tell you that we have reached the end of our being able to help you with your repeated complaints and requests. Oh, the end of your being able... I would have thought the end would come after the start of helping me with my requests. They haven't started that yet, so I think they probably need to review that decision themselves. Oh, should we start trying to help her before we stop trying to help her? Maybe that makes more sense. All correspondence between yourself and the ministry will be in person or by phone through a dedicated case manager. Nah. And email correspondence will cease. Nah. They don't reply to me anyway. But if I want to email them, I'm going to fucking email them, because they don't get to do what they're trying to do, which is to keep everything off the record so they can abuse me in private. With that in mind, if you continue to email us, we will read your correspondence, but if you do not raise anything new, you will not respond. Great, well that makes a really refreshing change, doesn't it? Really refreshing change. Not respond. And the thing is that I don't have to raise anything new to have a response to my repeated request for a reasonable fucking answer. What is it that you expect of me? Any communication we have with you that contains intimidating or threatening language or behaviour or is of an excessive nature will not be tolerated or responded to. So that really means that I shouldn't have responded to this woman, because she's because we've had communication that contains her intimidating and threatening language and behaviour that's sort of an excessive nature, and I don't tolerate that, and I probably shouldn't have responded to it, but I did tell her that I completely reject this and I'm making a police complaint, so at least she knows that. But, you know, like, I'm not arguing with people who know they're lying, and that's a mistake that a lot of people make. It's like, she's a liar. She's a very, very nasty, nasty, nasty liar. And it's like, I'm not arguing with you because the only reason I'd argue with you is to try to make you see the truth. But she knows the truth. All abusers know the truth. That's what gaslighting's about. And that's why it's so frustrating to see people who don't know this like I do. Don't fucking argue with them about what colour the sky is. They know it's not purple. Don't try to prove to them that it's not purple. Don't put so much effort into finding different ways to explain the sky's not purple. They know the sky isn't purple already. So, to help us provide a better service, fuck, I mean, I really wonder if, who falls for this? To help us provide a better, who seriously expects anyone to fall for this? To help us provide a better service, we are taking the following steps. A case manager has been assigned to assist you. Well, I wish that were the case, but she goes on to say, any request you make to MSD will be managed by Robin Sadgrove at Linwood Service Centre to ensure a consistent approach. So they have not assigned a case manager to assist you. They're just drawing my attention to the case manager I already have who refuses to assist me. All communications with the ministry will be with your case manager, which is illegal. It's completely illegal for her to say that. If you contact any other MSD staff or managers, they will not respond. Well, maybe they should stop fucking ringing me out of the blue when I've told them that I don't like phone calls. So I've taken screen caps of my call log. You'll see that I don't ring any managers, they ring me. People I've never heard of ring me. And then I think because they want to keep things either on unofficial channels or they want to sort of intimidate me with their status, they then email me with their email addresses, like this woman I've never heard of before. It's like, why is she fucking emailing me from her email address while accusing me of contacting managers? It's like, it's just simply not happening. All communications with the ministry will be with your case manager. If you contact any other MSD staff or managers, they don't respond. Requests for assistance can be made by phone. I haven't asked for any assistance. I've been asking them for information that they will not give me and which they have to give me. Robin will engage with you. No, she won't. Through phone and in-person appointments, and can be contacted on blah. No, I'm not going to. I'm under no. People who have been criminally harassing me are unsafe. I'm not having any contact to do with a criminal abuser. Any emails you send to MSD will not be responded to. Again, what a refreshing change. It's like a long glass of pineapple juice. And finally, we will only address information requests, reviews of decisions or complaints if the request has not been responded to. Well, that's again illegal. That's contravention of statute. In the instance we receive a repeat request, you will be advised that this has been addressed and referred to the original decision. No, it won't be, because there is no original decision to be referred to because they haven't replied. So, you know, if this were my first rodeo rather than my, I'm not joking, I think 50th since this chain link of abuse started, with you know, various, you know, every man and his dog really. I would have a bit of fun with that. By asking to be referred to the original decision, but they won't respond to me with a decision whatsoever. And I've tried really hard by giving them examples of what a decision might look like, in terms of what they would like my obligations to be because they haven't told me. And I've been very, very helpful, and I've suggested they use the SMART goal model because that's the way, as the policy documents say, you have to have an individualised a plan to move into permanent housing. You can't just like bang your head against a brick wall and expect to find a home and for your head to stop bleeding. So no one's made a decision. No one's told me what it is I'm supposed to be doing. I'm just supposed to meet obligations that are not specified, but which I've apparently not met. So, yeah, so Angela Talbot is a crime lord, and because she's so high up, her responsibility, I would imagine that if, the law, I don't know if the law is going to work because the police are not. It's a real fucking pain in the ass having to go to the police about crimes committed against me because they're busy committing crimes against me as well, and you never know if you're getting a good cop or a bad cop. But if this is going to go through CJSU or police prosecution, then I'm shit out of luck. But if justice were working, then she would get, I don't know what I can't remember what the maximum prison sentence is, but I think it's something like 7 years. And I think that she'd probably get most of that. Whereas the lower down managers and Robin and others would, probably the least of the offenders probably wouldn't get a sentence, at least not she might get a fine or something, or a diversion. But others would probably serve 6 months or something like that, this is a piece of it. And, as my, I shouldn't keep saying her name, but as my, the person who supported me to go to police yesterday said, well, I showed you this letter, which, and she said, well, this is just a confession. This is a written confession signed. Like there's no getting out of that. There's no indication that she confessed to her crimes under duress. But yeah, I do want to show the. I don't want to do it at the moment, but you can find the. If you look up Integrated Services Case Manager, one of the first things that will pop up is the job description. And the job description is obviously based on the legislation, or at least the policy documents. And I've seen the policy documents. I can't find them where they are at the moment, but they do not have anything to do with bullying someone up the chain link until they either give up or kill themselves. Yeah, that's not really what integrated services is, which is to help all New Zealanders be their best and strongest. Yeah, so here we go.